It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to educating, entertaining, and discussion of firearms, legislation, and your Second Amendment rights. Presented in part by the Illinois State Rifle Association, Illinois Gun Works, Pelcher's Shooting Supply, and Safer USA. Now here's your host, firearm instructor, educator, and enthusiastic Second Amendment proponent, David Lombardo.
And welcome to On Target Radio, America's voice for the Second Amendment. I'm David Lombardo, and sitting across the council from me, my co-host, Tim Dalan. Say hi, Tim.
Hi.
Tim. And every Sunday.
Except last Sunday.
Every Sunday except last Sunday. We're here from 9 to 10 p.m. talking about all things Second Amendment. And you, as a listener, will have the opportunity to call in, and you can harass and harangue our guests if you would like. We'll take your questions or comments at 312-642-5600. Or you can go to Facebook. You can like our page On Target Radio and ask a question there. It's going to be an interesting night tonight. We're talking about women and guns.
It's going to be very interesting. And I would not harass any of our guests tonight because you may
could be
live very shortly to regret it.
Stepping over the line, yes. I hope Sakoff is listening tonight, our account rep. Michael, you should be here if you're listening. We're going to have 10 people in the studio tonight. I'm glad the air conditioning is working. But anyway, we are going to talk about women and guns. But first, it's my rant of the week. Ever since the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit ruled it unconstitutional to prohibit Illinoisans from carrying a concealed firearm, there's been a lot of talk about training, and not all of it has been good. In fact, I've had long-standing issues with some concealed carry training providers associated with many non-resident concealed carry programs such as Utah and Florida. I've kept a cork on my opinion because as president of Safer USA, anything I say has a ring of self-promotion, but I'm uncorking it now. Let me say that there are many good independent instructors that provide training in the Chicagoland area, such as Ballistic Fighting Methods, Midwest Training Group, Mesad Ayub Group, Excel Training Group, and DMZ Tactical, to name just a few. There are also gun ranges, such as our sponsor, Illinois Gun Works in Elmwood Park, that provide quality training. There are individuals who teach what they personally know and have experienced, and they do it thoroughly. I often recommend them and others to my own students because getting different points of view is always a good idea. I've been a teacher in both academia and industry for most of my life, specializing in psychomotor skills, specifically flying and shooting. I'm a firm believer in the need for training, so I find it troublesome that some trainers don't take their job seriously. Of course, we all want to make money, but it shouldn't be about making money. I've had numerous students tell me about someone who teaches the 4-hour Utah concealed carry course in 1 hour, including fingerprints and photos. What exactly can you possibly teach someone in 60 minutes while taking their fingerprints and photo that will save their life and prevent them from illegally taking someone else's life? Then there are several people teaching similar courses that do not have one iota of practical experience. They got an NRA pistol instructor rating, got certified by Utah, and are teaching people to carry a concealed firearm with absolutely no experience. How do you advise someone or answer questions if you have no practical experience? If you're considering taking a concealed carry course, I suggest you ask the instructor about his experience. Was he law enforcement? Military combat vet? Has he ever actually used a firearm to defend his life? And most recently, we're seeing those who are simply lying to the public, saying if you take their course today, it will qualify for the Illinois concealed carry permit when it's approved. No one, absolutely no one knows if the proposed legislation will pass as written or if there will even be a training requirement. These vultures are picking at the bones of those so eager to get concealed carry they'll jump on anything that smells like it. Now, this does not include a few trainers who are taking reservations for a future course that will be developed once the actual requirements are made known. These entrepreneurs are simply letting people get a place in line for when the day comes. That's shrewd business. There's nothing wrong with that. I've had numerous individuals call to sign up for our home protection and concealed carry seminar thinking it would qualify them for Illinois. I've always set them straight. No one is more eager to provide Illinois concealed carry training than we are at Safer USA. But as responsible educators, we prefer to wait until we know the facts. I suspect we'll offer a program that goes beyond what's required, and there will be those who prefer to take the easy way. I have no skin in the game, so be it. But those students who study with Safer USA will get serious, in-depth training on the good, the bad, and the ugly of carrying a firearm for personal protection. I don't ever want to see any of my students' names in the obituaries or in the news saying they illegally used lethal force. We feel students have the right to a comprehensive program. That's what we'll offer when the time comes, and I guarantee you it will be a lot longer than 1 hour, including fingerprints and photos. And that, Tim, is my rant for the week.
And that's a really good one. I really like that, and I hope a lot of people heard that.
Are your parents listening?
I'm not sure.
We don't know. We might have two. Okay, anyway, tonight, Women and Guns. We'll take your calls at 312-642-5600 or go to Facebook, like our page on Target Radio, and ask a question there. Our guest in the studio tonight, I actually don't have the telephone directory with me, but I will hit the high points. Karen Bartuch, who is CEO, and there you are in the middle, CEO and founder of Alpha Girls, president and founder of the Women's Tactical Association, career law enforcement officer. Sara Ahrens is a law enforcement sergeant, a SWAT team supervisor, actually was 4 years, and was Top Shot Season 3 contestant.
Briefly.
You were on a while.
I made it on the show.
Yeah, exactly. And Marilyn Smolenski is a lifelong shooter and president of Nickel and Lace, a manufacturer of concealed carry holsters designed specifically to meet the requirements of women. Now, in our third segment, when the studio will overflow with love, we are going to have some very special guests. We will have Sarah's daughter, Emily, her boyfriend, Charles, and her son, not her daughter's son. This is getting confusing. Sarah's son, Michael, and Marilyn's son, Riley. And they'll all come in, and during a third segment, we'll interview them. And we'll find out what they think of having pistol-packing mamas. You know what I'm saying? But for now, ladies, welcome. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You definitely classed the joint up, let me tell you that. I want to start out with a question that I think is just astounding, and that is, and we only have about 3 minutes, but Joe Biden's advice. Did you see this about, he says he told his wife that she should get a shotgun and shoot it in the air? Anyone want to weigh in on that one?
Yeah, I think that it's silly advice all the way around. I mean, I've personally found it very degrading and insulting to women that he was insinuating that we can't handle a pump action or an AR-15.
Yeah, he's pretty good for some terrible advice. And I think if you're in a self-defense situation, the last thing you want to do is miss your target. So that's pretty irresponsible advice to be giving someone.
Yeah, take that over and under and blast off both shots and then stand there and
pray to God.
You're going to carry your a box of 12-gauge shells around with you?
That's like when people tell the police, oh, why don't you just shoot him in the hand? That doesn't work in those types of situations.
And we don't do warning shots.
We don't.
Yeah. Just on New Year's Eve on our back porch.
The first and last sound you will hear is, I just, and he said that with as straight a face as Joe Biden can say anything, and it's somebody, clearly not him, told him to say that, and whoever it was pretty much an idiot. A more serious question, though. We're talking about women and guns. Do women have different issues with respect to, to shooting and firearms, selecting firearms and that thing than men do? Is there any difference?
I came from the police academy, so I didn't really have a choice on weapons that I can use. So I had to use pretty much what everyone else was using. So I didn't get a good selection process. But I think that, sure, there are different issues for women, hand size and things like that. I unfortunately have man hands, so I could use a bigger gun. But yeah, I think there are definitely some issues.
Well, I think for concealment, there is definitely some issues. And through my policy at my department, I'm allowed to carry off duty as well. And there's a variety of weapons with which I can choose. But the biggest obstacle that I face is where I can conceal it. Because if you're a smaller stature person, I can't do the Lisa Looper, bra holster because I don't have enough to cover it up. So have you ever seen that? Give me a flashbang.
The flashbang bra holster?
We're going with that one.
You look surprised.
Learn something new.
You're not familiar with that holster?
This is actually the first time that I've been the straight man in that type of a conversation.
You looked a little confused, like you're not familiar with that holster. But
I
anyway,
know I am. It's just the way you asked the question.
With you, Sarah,
there's certain places you can't conceal when you're small.
Well, that's why I created my holster.
And that we'll talk about too.
Yes. But basically, it is for a woman has a smaller stature mostly, and for me personally, when I would wear different holsters at training, I would get bruising, and I would have to constantly shift them around. It just wasn't comfortable. So,
well, and women tend to be smaller. I don't think that's a sexist thing to say. Women tend to be smaller than men, and some firearms. A good example would be a Glock. A .45 caliber Glock has a wider, thicker grip than like the 9mm or the 40 does. The 9 and the 40 are the exact same gun. I mean, there are some physical considerations, but well, that was good. I didn't hit. Yeah, there we go. There are some physical considerations I think that we have to take into account. We're going to go to a break, and we're going to be back with more On Target Radio and Women and Guns after these messages.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560, The Answer, with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
And we're back with On Target Radio. We're taking your calls at 312-642-5600. That's 312-642-5600. And now the moment that you've all been waiting for, Tim's Fighting Back.
As brought to you by the Illinois State Rifle Association. A 21-year-old Texas man is being credited with protecting his family when he retreated into his family's bedroom, retrieved a gun, and fatally shot one of 3 intruders who forcefully entered his home. The Harris County Sheriff's Office reported that Thursday night at about 9 p.m., the homeowner heard a knock at the front door, and when he opened it, the suspects rushed inside. One of the suspects carried a pistol and another had a shotgun. The men lunged at the mother, the report said. The owner yelled for his adult son to get a gun, and the younger man rushed down a hall to a bedroom. One of the suspects followed him, but the son, in fighting back, grabbed a gun and fired 3 shots, hitting the suspect who died at the scene. The other suspects, upon hearing the gunfire, fled the scene, speeding away in a white Ford Explorer. Police later spotted a vehicle with 2 men who matched the suspect's description and took them in for questioning. No charges are expected to be filed against the son. This has been Fighting Back, brought to you by the Illinois State Rifle Association.
For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has supported the rights and freedoms of Illinois citizens to keep and bear arms. For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as sport, for personal protection, and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. That's 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you.
And that was the voice of the Emperor, Lauren. It's always good to have you here, Lauren. Thank you. Okay, so we're talking about women and guns, and I have a question. And the question is this. There's a lot of study been done. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman has done a lot on the subject of the average person really doesn't have it in them to shoot somebody or to kill another person. It's just, I mean, if it did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There wouldn't be humanity left. There is a particular sort of mindset that's going to go along with carrying a firearm for personal protection. It's not something that you develop the plan when you need it. It's something you have to develop and have beforehand. Talk about that a little.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people always think they're going to rise to the occasion, but they end up falling to their level of training. And I would say even over and above physical skills or firearm skills is the combat mindset That's one of the most important things. I mean, that's why we do things on the range with a timer or run scenarios that are as realistic as possible, because that's the first thing that's going to fall apart. So you want to be able to make split-second decisions quickly and do what you need to do and pull the trigger if you need to do so.
It's a very valid tool for law enforcement as well. When we have people who are in training, we teach them the what-if scenarios. So they think, if I go to this call and it ends up like this, so that they have some kind of plan, because you don't want somebody to get stuck in a rut, and you don't want somebody to think they could fight somebody off and then realize, okay, that's not working. What do I do next? So, I mean, that it's very important to pre-plan and know what you're willing to do.
Well, and that's a bigger deal than people realize, because the quote that you, in fact, just gave is from a guy named Archelaus, who was a Spartan back around 500 BC. And it's really true. You don't rise to your expectations. You fall to the level of training. This is a perishable skill. Yes. If you don't practice this sort of thing on an ongoing basis, it doesn't just come to you 6 months later without practice, does it?
No, not at all. And that's why we do certain types of drills, because you have to have seen it in training before you're actually in the situation to be able to act quickly. You want to reduce that lag time, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with the OODA loop, John Boyd and the OODA loop. You want to cut down your reaction time, and that's why we do certain drills so that we're able to act faster than our opponent.
One of the things we always talk about in our seminar, Home Protection Concealed Carry, is shooting is muscle memory. If you actually have to think about drawing a firearm and shooting it, you don't shoot enough, and you should never let your life depend on that. I mean, we have people who come in and take the seminar, and their attitude is, I'm going to put a gun on my hip, somebody gives me crap, I'm going to shoot them. And that's just totally an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, merely owning a weapon is not self-defense. You need to be proficient with it and be trained up with it, absolutely.
And one of the things we always talk about is bringing a gun into a situation raises the ante automatically. When the bad guy sees you have a gun, he rises to the level of the fact that you're armed. So you really have to know what you're doing. And that's not to suggest that people shouldn't have the ability to carry the firearm. It's just that the thought that you're going to go to a gun store, buy a gun, buy a holster, and now you're covered, that's a little...
Well, there's a whole set of responsibilities that come, especially with carrying concealed. And I, for one, can tell you that I carry off-duty all the time, but there are situations I already have pre-planned in my head that if my children are with me, it just kind of depends on the situation, where I'm at, what I'm willing to do. And you kind of have to weigh the risks and decide what you're willing to do and what situations you would be willing to take those type of shots.
Right, avoidance or de-escalation.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. And who's the boxer that bit the ear off of Vander Holyfield?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
With the face tattoo?
Yeah. In one of his brief moments of lucidity, Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan till they get hit. And, having the plan is like your starting point. But anybody that's been in the military will know that no plan survives the first, test with the enemy, because nobody gave the enemy the plan. So you have to practice this stuff. And I'm assuming when you do training, that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving conflicting signals, and people have to break it down and figure it out.
Yeah, and one of the things that we teach is to just stay in the fight. Shot is not dead, so stay in the fight as long as you can. And there's situations. There was a female officer where she was shot in her right hand, and she luckily had practiced shooting left hand and ended up taking down the offender with her left hand. So you have to prepare for every single contingency that could possibly happen.
And that is also a really good point, because we're always telling people that this notion that you're going to get into a fight, whether it's a fist fight or a knife fight or a gun fight or whatever, and you're going to walk away unscathed, the victor, is like...
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. You're going to get hurt. I mean, it's hard to imagine getting into some kind of a fight and not getting hurt.
Yeah, and that's why I'm happy to see a big push in the law enforcement field for medical training and to carry medical kits on your person, because we all know that if there's an active shooter situation, the ambulance isn't going to come in if there's shots being fired. So it's important for you to be able to treat yourself medically.
Exactly. One of the things... in terms of women, they are limited in terms of where they can conceal a firearm. And so what have you done, Marilyn, in this regard?
Well, I created a shapewear holster. It is an open bust camisole that women can wear, and there is a cross-draw holster on the left side, and it does fit subcompact. handguns. Most women who do carry subcompacts, if they're not a police officer, of course, most officers do carry larger weapons, but this is more for like a Ruger or a car, just a subcompact that you can carry on yourself a little easier than what you could underneath your bra.
There we go.
Not touching it with a 10-foot pole. No way.
But it's a great combination because it's shapewear and
Yes,
concealed carry.
It does have dual purpose. And for here in Chicago, until we do have, a right to conceal carry a weapon, you could use it for other purposes. I've actually am marketing towards some women in the city who just don't want to carry a purse with them when they're going for a night out. They could fit their iPhone or like their credit cards and things in the holster.
Cool.
So
I think one of the key things about whatever holster you have is you have to practice with it.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely.
When I was with the county, it wasn't a rule, but sort of the unwritten rule was if you got a new holster, you had to draw 100 times before you could wear it on the street. And I think particularly with something like that, you really have to practice doing it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm even meeting with a few groups of ladies to practice specifically from my holster if they plan to purchase or buy it, that way that they know a proper draw. And I plan to do proper draw videos and have them available on YouTube and such.
One of the things that I like to tell people, and we've got about 30 seconds, but one of the things I like to tell people when someone comes to you and says, I've been shooting my entire life, I can put 25 shots under the size of a pinhead at 5,000 feet, I'm pretty much unimpressed because that's not the reality of concealed carry. Concealed carry is close up. You give me enough bananas, I can teach a monkey to shoot somebody at 15 feet. It's everything else that goes into it, not the marksmanship, but everything else that surrounds it, is it not?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why the days of standing in a booth and shooting at a static target are, kind of over for the training world. So
exactly. That's exactly right. It's not marksmanship. It's all the rest of the stuff that wraps around it. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to fill this room with love. That's a polite way of saying it, isn't it?
Yes.
More On Target Radio. After this, you're listening to AM 560, The Answer.
Attention firearm owners or those considering exercising your Second Amendment rights. I want to tell you about Illinois Gun Works. From void services and new firearm purchases to gunsmith services and an indoor shooting range, Don and his staff will assist you without attitude or pressure. Need training? Illinois Gun Works' popular Illinois Responsible Firearm Owners class teaches you the regulations to legally defend yourself, own, and transport your firearm. There's a required class for a Chicago firearm permit and popular new shooter familiarization class, including one for women. Now, I took this class and urge you to reserve your spot fast for this fun class. Illinois Gun Works offers a wide selection of training and certification classes, from security work to those just considering ownership, even special group classes. Illinois Gun Works, Chicagoland's full-service firearm headquarters, is located on Grand Avenue, just a block west of Harlem in Elmwood Park. Call 708-452-0040 or visit IllinoisGunWorks.com. That's 708-452-0040.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
You can hear Gun Rights Radio Network on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free today at Stitcher.com or in the app stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Gun Rights Radio Network shows can be found under Sources.
You're listening to On Target Radio. on AM 560. The Answer with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
All right, this segment is brought to you by Home Protection and Concealed Carry. On Target Radio, hosts David Lombardo and Tim Dalan would like to invite you to take their Home Protection and Concealed Carry seminar offered the second Saturday of every month. You'll qualify for both Utah and Arizona non-resident concealed carry permits, and with an optional shooting proficiency session, it also meets the requirements for Florida concealed carry and the Chicago firearm permit course. The seminar covers everything you need to know from both concealed carry and home protection. Choosing an appropriate firearm, dealing with the sociopathic behavior, how your autonomic nervous system affects your ability to use a firearm under stress, avoiding criminal prosecution and civil suit, and drawing from a holster with emphasis on firearm retention. For more information, visit saferusa.com or call 877-954-3030. That's 877-954-3030. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Well, I thank you, Emperor. I appreciate that enormously. I hope we got a picture of this room. We have 12 people in the studio.
They're going to come online. Just
George,
I've got like 40 of them to get out there.
Our engineer is just shaking his head.
I'm standing by to call the fire department.
All right. This is going to be fun. So here's what we're doing. We're talking about women and guns, except we've made the women step back. Well, except one. We have one woman still up here. And we're going to just talk for a few minutes with, I've got to get it all right, with Sarah's daughter, Emily, and her son, Michael. We're going to talk with Marilyn's son, Riley. And we also have Emily's, is it safe to say boyfriend? Is that okay? Mom, can we say boyfriend? It's okay, boyfriend, Charles. So let me just start out by asking, I want to ask Michael and Emily, what's it like to have a mother who, is a cop? I mean, and I'm being serious. What? And she was also like a TV star. This would be the part where you talk.
It's pretty cool. I like the ability to use the gear that she has and the...
So...
Guns. Yeah, guns.
So you think that's pretty cool? Did you see her when she was on TV?
Yes.
What'd you think?
It was pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. Did kids at school know that your mom was on TV?
Yes. A lot of people made tons of comments and said that they thought it was very cool.
That's cool. And Emily, and Charles. I really want to know, Charles, this is like every father is, right? Every father goes, oh, my daughter starts dating. When that kid comes over, I'm going to be cleaning my guns. Does her mother clean guns when you come by just to make a point?
I actually have a funny story about that. The first time he ever came over to my house, my mom was actually making her own ammo. So he kind of figured out what our family was like pretty early on. But it's pretty cool, actually, having a mom as a police officer. When I was younger, actually, though, I kind of thought my mom was crazy because, like she said earlier, she makes plans about escape routes and, like, protection, using guns and all that really, really early. And I kind of just thought she was off her rocker, to be honest. But I find myself now, I go to, like, the mall or something, and I'll go into a store, and the first thing I think of is, okay, where's the first exit? How am I going to get out? So I guess it's like mother, like daughter. It kind of rubs off.
So, Emily, at 16, you have situational awareness.
Yes, I do.
And that is something that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And that's certainly not something that that most people do. That's really to be commended. Charles? So is there an intimidation fact when mom says get her home by a certain time? How does that go over?
Probably even funnier. I'm not the one that can drive, so there's been times I've been past curfew, which is probably scary all around. It's just bad if you're past curfew. The guns are police officers all around scary for them to be in charge of.
You're in the wrong family if that's a concern.
My husband's a police officer.
I didn't know that. I asked you that and you didn't respond. I thought it was you were going to say he was like a hitman or something because you didn't answer me. So he's a cop too?
Yes.
Daddy's actually nicer than Mommy when it comes to guns, though.
Okay, moving on. Yeah, that's going to be a long car ride home, isn't it, Sarah? And then we have the son of a good friend of mine, Riley. Your mom makes women's underwear that holds guns. Have you thought about that at all?
Not really.
Do you tell your friends what your mom does? I'm just wondering
No.
offhand. No. So what do you think? Your mom's a shooter? She's been a shooter for years. And your dad, they're both.
Yeah, I have been.
Do they take you shooting?
Occasionally, they'll take me out to the range.
So you have shooting experience too?
Very little, but yes.
You like it?
I really like shooting. I
Cool.
enjoy it.
Have you been shooting?
Yeah, I've been shooting. Personally, I'm more of a musical theater person, which is, I'm kind of like the odd one out in the family. But
And what about you, Michael? Do you shoot?
A lot, yeah.
Do you really?
Good job.
What do you shoot?
Anything.
Anything I'll let him know.
And so basically we're talking about an up-and-coming top shot contestant. We'll be back after these messages with fewer than 12 people next time with more On Target Radio. You've been listening to AM 560, The Answer.
For 35 years, Pelcher's Shooters Supply has served the Lansing area. Pelcher's offers new and used firearms sales, appraisals, and gunsmithing service. Pelcher's new spacious showroom has hundreds of major brand firearms and supplies, and PelcherGuns.com features daily specials. Pelcher's Shooter Supply on the corner of Ridge Road and Henry Street in downtown Lansing. Online at PelcherGuns.com or call 708-474-0662.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560, The Answer, with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
We're back with more On Target Radio, and we're taking your calls at 312-642-5600. Or go to Facebook, like our page On Target Radio, and ask a question there. We're talking about women and guns, and our guests are Karen Bartuch, Sara Ahrens, and Marilyn Smolenski. I have a question in terms of what is an appropriate firearm for concealed carry, and particularly for women, if it makes a difference.
I think it's one that a woman's comfortable shooting.
Your mic was not on. Now it's on.
I think any firearm that a woman is comfortable shooting and that they can shoot and handle and control and also conceal is probably a pretty good option. You also have to take a look at caliber, but as you go up in caliber, generally it's more uncomfortable to shoot and a little bit harder to conceal, depending on the size.
Yeah, but a lot of women I see come in our courses show up with like 32 caliber little pocket guns. I mean, you shoot somebody with that, you're going to make them angry.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen, we shoot 40 Smith & Wesson in my department, and I've watched officers shoot pit bulls in the head, and it doesn't even penetrate the skull, so you definitely have to know what your ammunition can do and what your limitations are based on that caliber. You know, if you choose to carry a .380, I have some .380s, and sometimes I carry it, but I also know it's going to be up close and personal when I use that. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, what I use is a Walther PPK. Because it's very comfortable. It's a pound and a half, fully loaded. It's a very comfortable gun to carry concealed.
But once you get into nines, I mean, really, the stopping power is really the only difference because ballistically it's going to have about the same penetration as a .40, .45, depending on the ammunition. So,
do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I would second what Sarah said about it's the weapon that you're proficient with. And, you know, just like tactics, there is no magic weapon for anyone. It's what you're proficient with. And for home defense, there's pros and cons to having a shotgun versus a pistol and, you know, where you can keep it safe from your children or how easily you can access it. So it's really knowing what you can do with the weapon.
Problem with a shotgun, though, you know, I went on a call once where about 3 feet with a 12 gauge with buck, and I got to tell you something. That is not a picture you want to have in your memory bank if you can avoid it.
I don't want the picture of somebody coming into my house either.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I agree. I mean, you're right. It's stopping power. But I maintain that, you know, an AR or a 40 caliber or 45 can be just as detrimental to an intruder.
But I don't know if you know this about me, but I've actually been involved in an officer-involved shooting. And one thing that I was quite unprepared for was when I shot the suspect with a .40 caliber round,
Yeah.
is I'd never actually seen an animal or a person shot, and I expected what I saw on TV.
Yeah,
and it was not that. And that was something critical for me as far as training, to realize that there may be more of a fight left in somebody. It might not be instantaneous. It might not look like a big gaping hole. So I guess you want to know if you're going to stop it right then and there, or, I mean, the pictures, yeah, it can be bad, but truthfully, I would rather make sure it's done with the first round.
What you said is very interesting, because I make a big deal out of this in the seminar. People see too much TV. The concept that you're going to shoot somebody like with a handgun and they're going to fly backwards and be dead is, here's the statistic.
I didn't even know if I hit.
The statistic is when police officers use lethal force, they only kill their opponent 20% of the time. And if their opponent is actually shooting at them at the time, it drops to 9% of the time. The chances that a person who doesn't work with this all the time that will actually stop someone with a shot are virtually nil. Yeah. And when you do shoot somebody, they likely to throw up on you. It can be very ugly,
still got
too.
some fight in them.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
I don't think so.
Oh, good. And
for once, yeah.
Karen is online now. She's listening live over the internet. So hi, Karen. Your friend Karen?
Oh, hi, Karen. French.
There you go. Jason, looks like I missed a good one. Okay. Yes, no. Jason always has very bizarre questions that we pretty much don't. So here, let's change the subject. This is not slapping anyone in the face with a glove. Pink? Seriously? Pink? They even make pink handcuffs.
Yeah, negative.
If it's for breast cancer, I'm all for it, but it's a little obnoxious to just throw pink on something that's the same deal as the male product and say that it's for a woman.
Yeah,
and women see through that and they know.
I think all three of us agree on that, but quite honestly, I think that if it makes you more comfortable,
if you like
and if it gets you out to the range and it gets you practicing and training, then I'm all for it.
You know what I think? I think it's some middle-aged, balding marketing guy who works for a big corporation who thinks he's being smart. I mean, if I were a woman and someone did that, we're talking about using lethal force.
Yeah, I come from a different place. I'm carrying a gun to kill someone if I have to, so I don't really care what color it is or if it has sparkles on it.
I prefer OD green.
Yeah, yeah. And to call it like tactical if it's pink or whatever, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, it's just, I don't know. To me, it just seems sexist. It seems like it's the exact opposite of what they think they're marketing.
Yeah, and I hope that this group here, we're trying to change the image and perception of women that are involved in shooting.
One of the interesting things is that women are hardwired for fine motor skills. Men are hardwired for upper body strength. Women tend to make better shooters than men do. And men have a very hard time accepting that, but basically they do. I mean, women are just better at fine motor skills.
I've heard that women don't know how to miss.
Oh, that's scary, isn't it?
I'll let you get in trouble on that one.
I wish it was less than 45 seconds on the clock, but there's still time to kill.
Women have less ego, too, when it comes to training, so they tend to absorb information a little bit better.
That is absolutely true.
Yes, it is.
Let me tell you something.
Women make the best students in beginning
classes.
classes.
When I was with the county, riding with women, by and large, was always better because they rarely get out of the car with a chip on their shoulder looking for a fight. And guys I would ride with get out of the car looking for a fight, and you know what? You can always find one. Women tend to tend to be solvers rather than, bullies. We're going to be back. Wrap up On Target Radio after these few messages. I'm David Lombardo, president of Safer USA, Chicagoland's most popular firearm training school. We continue to offer our popular home protection and concealed carry seminar every month. This 8-hour seminar covers everything you need to know to safely and legally use a firearm for both concealed carry and home invasion, and qualifies you for Florida and Utah concealed carry permits good in about 30 states. Be sure to call and ask how we can help you raise funds for your organization or provide a guest speaker. We're also offering the NRA Basic Pistol Course and our Tactical Pistol 1 and 2. As always, I offer private one-on-one instruction for Basic Pistol, Chicago Firearm Certification, and Basic Home Defense. For further information, please call 877-954-3030 or go to saferusa.com. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching to own it responsibly is ours.
That's 877-954-3030 or SAFERUSA.com.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560. The Answer with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Tim has a question off of Facebook.
Charles asked, he took a lady shooting, and she was very comfortable with a single action with a manual safety, but felt that a Rock Island Armory 1911 was too heavy and wondered if anybody had a suggestion on another option.
And I would just say that 1911 is, you really can't go wrong with that firearm. It's my personal favorite. I think that you can find different calibers which might lighten it a little bit, and there's a million manufacturers of 1911s, so I think you could probably find something a little bit lighter, and I think your body will adapt to that as well over time. Weight shouldn't be a problem. It's the comfort in shooting.
And the weight will actually help with the recoil of the firearm,
Yes,
too, so it's
it
much
does.
more comfortable to shoot because it is heavy.
At least in practice.
Right.
I mean, in reality, when your adrenaline dumps.
Because if you shorten the barrel, it's going to be much more violent recoil. So,
sure. And a lot of people don't
giving
realize that
something
when they
up.
buy a gun for concealed carry. Well, we're going to wrap the show up, and both of you, Karen and Marilyn, have some events coming up, so why don't we talk briefly about that?
Yeah, so coming up this Saturday, March 2nd, we are hosting the first ever Firearms and Fashion Show in Chicago. And
Tim and I will be there.
Great, yes, and so will Sara Ahrens as our special celebrity guest. And we're really hosting this show to bring more women into the firearms community. So we're combining a traditional topic of fashion and with a more sensitive topic of firearms, and we're hoping to bring more women that have never ever thought about firearms into the mix with us and get them to be serious about their self-protection.
How do they do it? How much is it? When is it again? And how do they sign up?
AlphaGirlPower.com is where they can find the tickets. It's $40 in advance, $45 at the door. And this is going to be hosted actually in the city limits of Chicago at a place called Heat Armor.
Yeah, so there'll be armored vehicles there to play with. We'll have raffle prizes. Yeah, we're actually giving away a gun and some other large prizes. And food and drink are included with the tickets. And we'll have a bunch of cool vendors there, you guys included. So it's going to be a really fun, unique night.
Yes.
I think Rom's going to show up.
He's going to come to contribute to our 50-50 raffle.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one. Real quickly, Marilyn, how do they find out about your holsters?
NickelandLace.com. I actually launched the site later this week. I'm going to be rolling out probably Thursday or Friday. And I do have a Facebook presence. So if they'd like to go to NickelandLace.com, you can enter your email address, and I will send you a notification of exactly when we go live.
Are you going to be branching out and doing additional types of holsters?
I hope so. I want to see just how well this does and take my time with it. But I'm sure by the end of the year, I'll be introducing a few more items.
Super. Well, I'd like to thank all three of you, Karen and Sarah and Marilyn. Thank you for coming on
Thank
this
you
evening.
so much for having us.
Thank the entire entourage that you brought with you. You have water bearers and camel drivers and all kinds of stuff there. We'd also, in addition to thanking our guests, we'd like to thank those who do all the work. Robin Zeeland, our call screener, George Hoffman on the board, and Lauren Fuller, who's too old to be an intern, so he wants to be called Emperor. There we go. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Illinois Gunworks, Pelcher Shooter Supply, Illinois State Rifle Association, our website developer 31 Moons, and, of course, Safer USA. Until then, friend us on Target Radio on Facebook, and thanks for listening. Tim, do you want to say good night?
Good night. Remember iGold, March 6th, Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day,
Probably
ISRA.org.
we should probably plug that a little heavier, shouldn't we? We should tell people how they can find iGold.
ISRA.org, be at the top of their webpage. You'll go in there, you'll click on that, and it'll explain all about it.
In the past, they've had about 7,000?
About 7,000.
And there literally has never been a time in Illinois history when we need people more than we need them now.
If you own a gun in Illinois, you owe it to yourself and to your friends, your family to go.
This will be, I think, the most important Wednesday of any shooter's life in Illinois.
In Illinois, yes, it will be.
So we hope to see you down there. Tim and I will both be down there. We want to have you back at 9 p.m. next Sunday night, where we will be talking about hunting and conservation. Thank you.